And so we learn in human relationships, we need to be sincere. We need to be honest. We need not to be phony. Attention to who is praying. And so, by the way, that's kind of a prayer that deserves some time all of its own, I guess. The prayer to know ourselves as God knows us. The prayer for true self-knowledge. God, help me. Here we are alone in prayer. Help me to know myself, my own heart, the way you know me. Yes, I can fool people in the world. Some people make a career of that, by the way. Fooling other people in the world. Some people they're actors. They're professional actors. Some of them are very good at it, and they're millionaires because of that. They're pretending always to be someone else. In my prayer, let me say, God, help me to know myself in truth the way you know me. Help me to know who I am, and help me to know that person that you intended from the very beginning. When you created me in the womb of my mother, you had an intention for me. You had a calling for me, a vocation for me. You had something for me to do. There was a person that I was to become. Help me to know that. Help me to be, to cooperate with your grace, with your intention. But before any of that, help me to know who I am here and now, that I might know all of the ways I need your help. So attention to who is praying. We are praying. And if we don't become humble in prayer, we're missing something, right? Because if we're attentive to who is praying, and we walk away and we're no more humble than we were before, then something's missing. Because that attentiveness to the truth of ourselves ought to just dash into nothingness the false pride that we can walk through this world holding on to. So attention to who is praying. And then finally, attention to what is prayed. So these three things are simple. To whom I am praying, God. Who is praying? I myself. Thirdly, attention to what is prayed. What am I saying? What are these words that I'm saying? And if we don't mean them, we shouldn't say them. Or at least that ought to be part of our prayer. Lord, I'm reciting this prayer. I'm struggling against it in my own heart. I need help to make me mean this prayer. What's a good example? A good example is, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Part of the Our Father. If everyone meant that every time they said it, this would be a different world. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Because if I really mean that, then I'm saying, okay, God, look at the way I either forgive or refuse to forgive those who hurt me. And apply that same standard to me. Do I withhold mercy and forgiveness from others? Then I want you to withhold mercy and forgiveness from me. Well, that ought to be a wake-up call right there, right? Because I don't want to tell God, withhold mercy from me. I don't want to tell God, withhold forgiveness from me. I want to say to God, Lord, I need your mercy. I need your forgiveness. I need to be able to start again. I need to stand up and again begin to walk toward my vocation, toward that intention, toward the life that I ought to have, that I am to have. I need to begin to move toward that. And so I need you to forgive me as I fail. I need to have your mercy as I fall short of that. But in order to ask God to do that, if I'm praying the way Jesus taught us to pray, I have to be a person of mercy myself. I have to do that because that's the way Jesus said to pray. This is part of prayer. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So we need to mean that. If we're going to pray it, we need to mean it. If we really are not going to mean it, then we ought to just close our mouths. If we're at Mass, we're praying the Our Father together, close your mouth. Don't say those words if you don't mean them. But on the other hand, want to mean them. Ask God for grace to mean them. ask God for the grace and the power to be a person of mercy, to be able to forgive those the way we want and need to be forgiven. And He will give that grace because He wants us to be people of mercy. He wants us to be people who are forgiving. Doesn't mean that whoever hurt us did something good. If they hurt us, they did a bad thing. Okay, it's still bad. Even if we forgive them, it's still bad. Doesn't mean it's good. But it means that I am not standing in the place of God and insisting that I want to be the one to repay that person evil with evil. God, I trust you to judge that person. I trust you to correct that person. I trust you to bring true justice in the life of that person. The wrong that he has done, only you can correct that. Only you can set it right in his own heart. Only you can repair his heart. I entrust him to you. I give him over to you. When I do that, I'm forgiving him. I'm free of that. I'm asking God to do good for him. So my heart is free. And I can turn to God and ask for the mercy and forgiveness that I need. So attention to what is prayed. Even the simplest prayer, bless us, O Lord, in these thy gifts. You know, we shouldn't say it if we don't mean it, but we're asking God for something beautiful, aren't we? Bless us. Give us grace. Enable this food that you've provided for us. Enable this food to strengthen and enable us to walk a Christian life. We're about to receive from your bounty. Look, in this country, America, there is really a bounty of goods. At least there still is. I'm not sure there will be. Just as an aside and a joke, if we keep going into such debt as a country, I have no idea what's going to happen. It's scary. But at any rate, for right now, America is overflowing with goods. Thank God for that. God has put upon this country a certain responsibility. Because everyone to whom God gives much, He requires much. And so, much is required of us in this country. That's another issue. Attention to whom I pray, to who is praying, and to what is prayed. Now, in our human relationships, to again make that comparison and that analogy, in our human relationships, if we're not truly present in the relationship is going to be suspect and it's going to suffer, isn't it? You know what it's like to meet a person in maybe some social setting, and he's saying, hey, how are you doing? Nice weather we're having here, or what do you think about them rays, or whatever kind of a conversation, and yet, is a real relationship developing here, or are we just kind of playing the expectations of a social game? But part of the requirement of a true relationship is to be attentive and present as a human being. Be attentive to what the other person is saying and to be present to that other person. And that has to work both ways. If two people are not being attentive to one another or present to one another, then words are exchanged, but there's no real relationship. On the other hand, you can be in a conversation with a person and you know that they are with you. You see the eye contact. You see they're nodding their heads. You realize they're listening to what you're saying and they're trying to understand what you're saying. And you respond to that with your own honesty. You mean what you say with the person. You intend what you're saying to the person. And you want the person to understand and be present to you, and you be present to the other. This is required for a relationship to be real and to deepen and grow. And so it is in that prayer relationship. And I think we could maybe summarize St. Teresa's 3 characteristics of good vocal prayer, rephrase it using the language of presence. To be humanly present to God in prayer.